Hello there and a very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Dasni Athalda. Let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
EU threatens to suspend GSP Plus concession if death penalty is imposed, says President. 12 petitions filed with the Supreme Court against the death sentence. CPC employees temporarily suspend strike action to halt the supply of fuel to CEB. 2 Chinese nationals arrested in Kolpiti for manufacturing fake credit cards. Venerable Ratanathera responds to statements made by Prime Minister.
එතුමා මේ ජින මහාවීරගේ අහිංසාවාදය හා උපවාසය දකින්න ඕන බොහොම හොඳයි කියලා මට කියන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
The Attorney General has sent a reminder to Acting IGP C.D. Vikramaratne to name IGP Pujit Jayasundara, who is on compulsory leave, and ex-Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando as suspects over the April 21st attacks for neglecting their duties and responsibilities. The Attorney General had given the instructions taking into account the evidence directed to him by the Director of the Criminal Investigations Department. The AG points out, according to the evidence, it is evident the duo had committed an offence punishable under the Penal Code. The Attorney General's Department, however, stressed so far the acting IGP had not given any explanation as to why the instructions were not carried out. Also in local news, the final conference of the National Drug Prevention Week was held this morning.
The event was held under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena at the Sugadadasa Stadium in Colombo. The Drug Prevention Week, which was implemented on the 23rd of June under the discretion of President Maithripala Sirisena, ended yesterday. The attendees undertook a drug-free pledge at the event.
Now they are trying to bring Chinese cigarettes to the island. The reason for this is legalizing stocks which are brought illegally. If those which are brought illegally are legalized, even drugs will have to be legalized. That is what the customs and police are there for. If these things take place, neither the president nor myself will be able to remain in such a government. So we are against any law which promotes drugs. We won't let anyone to drive us back from the progress we have made. I openly say that the European Union has said that we will not be given the GSP Plus tax concession if we implement the death penalty. That is a threat. Threats are not good for any sovereign state. No one can interfere with the sovereignty of the state. They are the people who are against this. I heard a leading figure of the government has said that their party's policy is against the death penalty. If the policies of the party were implemented during these past 4 years, how much better would the country be right now? I saw that the opposition has said that they are against the death penalty, so do not implement it. I would like to ask a question from all of them, the members of the government, the opposition, members of international NGOs who interfere in the state's affairs and destroy the country. How have you helped in the fight against drugs, and what is the program that you have implemented? The people in the government who speak against the death penalty, what sort of support did you give to the anti-drug program that I implemented for the past 4 years? When the opposition was in power, what did you do to curb the spread of drugs? I was the health minister at the time, and when I submitted a cabinet paper to ban smoking cigarettes in public places, the chair of the meeting said that the tourism industry will collapse if we impose laws like that because no foreigners will come to the country. But when I became president, I approved all of those laws. People who did not support this program at all, people who did not do one single thing to curb the spread of drugs, are speaking out against the death penalty and trying to portray me as a bad person. It is not myself but the court that has handed down this verdict. All I am doing is signing it. I am signing it because we must do it and give a message to society. The famous drug kingpins who were arrested by the CID and TID and other units have revealed the names of politicians who were involved in smuggling drugs. How many politicians in the country are fulfilling their responsibilities to address the drug menace in the country? I won't talk about any other thing. When speaking about the international drug trade and international terrorism, I must clearly state that the April 21st attacks were linked to international drug smugglers. So we should understand the challenges that we face and work accordingly.
The report of the national survey conducted by the Presidential Task Force on Drug Prevention, the Dangerous Drugs Control Board and the Sri Lanka Police was presented to President Maithripala Sirisena at the event today.
11 fundamental rights petitions were filed with the Supreme Court today against the decision taken to carry out the death sentence in Sri Lanka, bringing the total number of petitions filed against the matter to 12. The petitions seek a determination stating their fundamental rights as well as those on death row have been violated by the President's decision to enforce the death sentence on a selected group of people. The Attorney General, Commissioner General of Prisons, the Minister of Justice as well as the Superintendent of the Valikada prison have been named as respondents in these petitions. The petitions claim fundamental rights were violated when only a selected number of heroin traffickers are to be executed at a time where there are many others on death row for murder and other crimes. Also, Chairman of the Prisoners' Welfare Society and former Minister Milinda Morogoda has requested the President to reconsider his decision on the death penalty. Addressing a letter to the President, he states that the President's statement has given rise to an outcry both locally and internationally.
Milinda Morogoda states that during his time in office as the Minister of Justice and Law Reforms from 2009 to 2010, discussions were held on the implementation of the death penalty. However, the former minister states that he believes that even taking the life of an inmate convicted of the most heinous crimes is a gruesome form of punishment that does not allow for a man to reform himself into a good citizen. The letter points out that when considering the time taken to reach a decision in court, there is a lack of complete confidence in the justice system and that the general public still have doubts regarding the judiciary of the country. In his letter, former Minister Milinda Morogoda implores the President to look into the eyes of a prisoner sentenced to death and requests him to visit prison and understand the deplorable life that they spent there.
CPC trade unions had temporarily called off their decision to suspend the fuel supply to the CEB following talks with Minister Kabir Hashim.
Earlier, CPC trade unions decided to suspend the supply, citing Minister Ravi Karunanayake and a group of people had obstructed the process of renovating the last 140 meters of a supply pipe which carries fuel from the Colombo port to Kolonnava. Minister Karunanayake has intervened, citing residents on either side of the supply pipe were not compensated, which resulted in the CPC trade unions moving towards a trade union action.
We were given a promise in writing saying that this will be resolved by 5 this evening or tomorrow at the cabinet meeting, and we were asked to trust in this 100%. We kept our faith in that promise and temporarily suspended this action until midnight this Friday, the 5th of July. But Honourable Minister, when the decision is made known to us on Wednesday, based on the decision, we will not only stop the supply of fuel to Ceylon Electricity Board, we will go for an even more severe action. Recently, a fire close to the Kalnia bridge claimed the lives of 2. This could result in a massive amount of damage. It won't be through the collapse of a garbage dump or an ISIS attack. It could be something worse. Is it the 21 million people or the 320 people of the Minister Karunanayake? We need to seek justice being done for the Minister. The Honourable Minister is holding us back. He has the power of the Deputy Leader of the party. I have a feeling that the Prime Minister too is behind all of this.
Due to this present condition, the supply process of 3 days now takes around 6 days for fuel to reach Kolonnava from the port. This costs the state around $4 million a year as delay charges for tankers.
There are several issues that come to mind when talking about the government that came into power after 2015. Among others, the central bank bond scam, the Central Expressway issue are a few that are highlighted when taking a look at the past record of the current government. Now, the computer tab saga of the Ministry of Education is also one such key event that people are reminded of due to the actions of the politicians. Minister of Education Akila Viraj Karyavasam says politicians with outdated ideologies are obstructing the program to provide teachers and students with computer tablets. Let's have a listen first.
Issuing a communique, the minister says that the program to provide tablet computers to teachers and students was delayed due to the deliberate attempts to sabotage the program through unfair criticisms. However, the minister adds that the historic decision taken by the President, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Ministers on the 25th of last month was a huge milestone achieved in the field of education.
The minister speaks about unfair criticism, but the general public have not forgotten what happened surrounding this tablet computer saga. The general public have not forgotten the number of times issues propped up with regard to the tender process of selecting a company to provide these tab computers. The general public have not forgotten the committees that were appointed to look into this, even by the President himself. The general public have not forgotten that this was introduced to the education field. The ministry said that this was being used as an educational tool. However, when questioned as to whether there are apps that support this educational tool or whether there are curriculums that have been set up for this purpose, there were no answers to these queries that were raised. The general public very clearly remember these incidents. They also remember the quality of the product that was to be given to the students. When questions were raised with regard to this, there were no answers as well. President Maithripala Sirisena, issuing a media release, stated that the approval of the Cabinet of Ministers was granted initially to provide free tablets to advanced level students only as a pilot project at national schools. The proposal to provide tablets to all A-level students island-wide was presented to the Cabinet back in 2017.
According to the release, the recommendation of the President to this proposal by the Ministry of Education was not to launch this program island-wide in a single phase, but to introduce a pilot project at selected national schools. The President was also of the view it is necessary to prevent students from accessing unnecessary websites other than those required by the subject curriculums. Accordingly, the Cabinet was informed that measures will be taken to restrict web access outside the syllabus. It was also decided to take future steps based on the success of the pilot project. The Cabinet too recommended to initially commence this program as a pilot project at national schools. The rupees 5.5 billion was allocated to provide tablets to students throughout the country. The President proposed to reserve required funds for the pilot project and to utilize remaining funds to meet the urgent needs of school equipment such as desks and chairs. The President also proposed to state the precise amount of funds required for the pilot project. Hence, the tender called in 2017 should be amended according to the pilot project. The President is of the view that though it is necessary to disseminate knowledge via modern technology, maintaining discipline among students and using methods suitable to the young minds is as equally significant.
These were all points highlighted by News First when the matter was being reported. Now, in his initial statement, Minister Akila Viraj Karyawasam says that politicians with outdated ideologies are trying to prevent this project from going forward. Let me tell you what is actually outdated. The tablet computer that was originally designed to be given to the students of these schools is what is outdated. Why am I saying this? Because we had documents to prove when we were reporting on the topic that the initial criteria for providing tablet computers to the students was decided in 2017. We are in July of 2019, and when we inspected the cabinet document that was available to us, when we check the product that was to be given to the general public or to the students of schools, that particular model was not in existence anymore at the time when this was being discussed. So what is outdated? The general public can decide. These were several key issues that we, the media, tried to highlight when the matter was being discussed. And up to date, the tablet computer saga continues. It's back to Dasuni, who's at the main studio.
Thank you, Chatu. Still in local news, a number of civil organizations proposed a new program to develop the country.
The program, conducted by 18 civil organizations, including the Deshodaya organization headed by Professor A.T. Aryaratne and Vinaya Aryaratne, has been named as the National People's Movement. They presented a new program under the theme "The Country Can Be Developed." Former Auditor General Gamini Vijayasinghe also attended the event.
ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂකයින් නම් කිරීමේදී
I think we all know that there is an international influence on the naming of the presidential candidates. That is not something that started to happen recently. Throughout history, geopolitics have been involved in electing a head of state. But as a citizen of Sri Lanka and as a citizen who loves the country, I believe that the people of our country can still decide who the leaders of the future are going to be. They have the sovereignty to do so. If we are determined not to allow these geopolitics affect the politics among our people, we will go to the people and select a good leader from among the people and provide the necessary facilities for it. From there, I believe that we can create a massive public opinion that will help reduce external influence and send suitable people to the legislature and the office of the executive.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට අරින්න පුළුවන් විධායකයට අරින්න පුළුවන්
පවතින ආණ්ඩුව පිළිබඳව කතා කරනවා නම් අවසන් මාස කිහිපයද අලුත් බලවේගයකට ඉඩක් තියෙනවද එහෙමත් නැත්නම් ඔබ හිතනවද මේ ආණ්ඩුවටම මේ තවත් ජනවරමක් ලැබෙයි කියලා මම හිතන්නේ පසුගිය අවුරුදු 40 50
If we consider the past 40 years or so, no government has been able to take the country forward. So every day we just slip lower and lower and there has never been a step forward. The debt today has come to a point where we cannot bear it anymore. I do not think the country can continue by taking new loans to service the debt of the country. So we must work with a vision. If not a person with such a vision, I do not think that we can move forward. No, I do not have any intention like that. I came out to continue my meditation and other such activities. In the meantime, I was asked by this movement to spread this knowledge and I joined them. I haven't even thought of such an invitation. They too have not thought of such an invitation. And there is no such feeling as yet.
The annual Captain's Appointment Ceremony and Colours Evening of the Law Students' Union of Sri Lanka was held today.
The commander of the Sri Lanka Army distributed the awards and appointments to the selected recipients for their excellent performances in the field of sports at the Sri Lanka Law College. He also made the following remarks at the event.
Our two professions have been firmly interwoven together to uphold the Constitution and bring justice to the people. I believe the genesis of most of the crises occurred due to lack of effective leadership at every level. We need leaders who can make right decisions at right time to flourish our organizations and our country at large. Effective communication would help to build trust and inspire hearts and minds to embrace the change we want to take this country forward. Whenever our Constitution is being challenged, you cannot stand silent and turn blind eye. There are concrete ways that individual lawyers and judges immediately can contribute to rekindling trust and confidence in our justice system. The country waits for well-disciplined, loyal, and energetic citizens who are confident enough to accept any challenge to bring the nation towards development and prosperity.
Venerable Athuraliye Ratanathera arrived at the FCID this morning.
Venerable Ratanathero arrived at the FCID around 11:30 this morning. The Venerable Thero had provided statements regarding a complaint submitted to the Batikla police regarding the funds utilized for the construction of the Batikla campus.
We provided information regarding the Batikla campus that Hizbullah was attempting to establish in the Batikla district. We were able to expose enough information to shut down the fundamentalist university. We submitted all this information to the FCID today. We believe that a case will be filed against him this week.
Meanwhile, Venerable Ratanathero expressed the following views in Balimada last evening in response to the statements made by the Prime Minister recently.
At present, it does not stop with racism. They observe fasts as well. A Venerable Thero told me that observing a fast is an insult to Buddhism. I asked the Venerable Thero why he made such a statement. The Venerable Thero then replied saying, "Prime Minister, were you not aware that only Niganta has died after observing a fast? We are against fasting. It goes against the principles of our religion." I believe the term Niganta comes from Sasanic traditions in India. Jaina Mahavira was a philosopher who lived during the time of Lord Buddha. He was responsible in introducing the culture of observing a fast. We should not be ashamed of using the term Niganta. Niganta is not a thief. He is someone who sacrifices his life for his community. I believe Ranil Wickramasinghe should follow Jaina Mahavira's principles.
The United National Party has named this month White July. MP Bandulal Bandarigoda explained the concept at a media briefing held at Temple Trees today.
Today is the 1st of July. July is commonly known as Black July. But this year, starting from the 1st itself, it has turned out to be a White July. Many of the concessions in the budget presented by our Finance Minister Mangala Samaravira will be implemented starting from today. All these concessions will be provided by the government at a cost of 39.36 billion rupees.
The Podujana Peramuna responded to the United National Party's White July at a press conference held earlier today.
The United National Party, which allowed a Black July to take place in this country, is now trying to make a White July happen. This government ruined everything and disgraced themselves.
The
SLPP also expressed their views on the current state of affairs in the country.
The Sri Lanka Ports Authority is left with only one terminal, that is a Jaya container terminal. The foreigners constructed it in a way that would allow only small ships there. The bigger ships that operate at present cannot even come close to this terminal. We had the East Terminal up to now, but that has also been sold to India and Japan. The Hambantota port has been completely sold to China. On the other hand, Trincomalee is about to be handed over to the Americans through the SOFA agreement. Then what happens to the security of our country? Of the airports, only Katunayaka is yet to be sold. If they sell that, then we lose all the airports too. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe is doing all this at this juncture for a reason. Ranil Wickremesinghe reads his own horoscope and it says that he will never be Prime Minister again. It says that neither him nor the UNP will be elected through a public vote. The only way they can come to power is by conspiring, and to conspire they need the help of the Americans. Now the Prime Minister is not trying to come to power through the mandate of the people but through the blessings of the Americans.
Sri
Lanka Mahabankuwe.
Now they are going to file a case citing that Arjuna Mahendran and 4 others are behind the bond scam. They will also sue another 10 people. But the CID is yet to even question Mahendran. Can they name Mahendran as an accused if they haven't even taken a statement? They are putting a case so that they can go ahead and throw it away, because they had no evidence to take it up. Mahendran will not be brought. Once they use this case, no government can come into power and sue them over this again. It was reported that on behalf of Sri Lanka, President Maithripala Sirisena made a request to the Singaporean government to extradite Arjuna Mahendran, who is the main accused in the bond scam. There is a provision in the Sri Lankan law. Another country will consider such a request only if there is a pending case against a person here in Sri Lanka, or there is space for him to be convicted of a crime in the country. We were informed previously that as there was no case filed against him, if I remember correctly, that the Prime Minister of Singapore had made a statement that Sri Lankan authorities have not notified them of any such requirement for him to be presented before the law. But now, as you report, cases have been filed against Mahendran and the other suspects before a court of law. Then, according to the provisions of law, if there is an agreement to extradite suspects between Sri Lanka and Singapore, that law will prevail. If not under ordinary international law, through the Interpol or similar means, the Singaporean government can extradite these suspects to Sri Lanka as they are required to answer for their crimes before a court of law in the country.
According to the Ministry of Finance, during the first quarter of 2019, state-owned enterprises made losses of more than 59 billion rupees. However, these losses that have been on the increasing trend over the past several years were not the result of the unfortunate 21st of April attacks.
Sri Lanka's 55 largest state-owned enterprises have lost more than 59 billion rupees during the first quarter of this year, with the Ceylon Electricity Board continuing to lead as the largest loss maker. Of the 55 state-owned enterprises, the losses come from 11 SOEs, the Finance Ministry said yesterday. The Ceylon Electricity Board made losses of 23 billion rupees. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation made losses of 21 billion rupees, while Lanka Sathusa Limited made losses of 788 million rupees during the first quarter of 2019. The total loss of Sri Lankan Airlines is also increased to 12.9 billion in the first 4 months of 2019, while the total debt of the national carrier has exceeded $750 million. Further, the government is currently bearing $375 million and more than 26 billion rupees of contingent liabilities piled up since 2014. This includes the guarantee granted for international bonds and letters of comfort issued to obtain loans during the BIA closure in 2016. The 59 billion rupee loss also includes the National Water Supply and Drainage Board's loss of 203 million rupees for the first 4 months of 2019, as against the profit of 372 million rupees for the same period in 2018. The National Livestock Development Board incurred a loss of 185 million rupees. The Agriculture and Agrarian Insurance Board incurred a loss of 114 million rupees. Sri Lanka State Plantations Corporation incurred losses of 77.8 million rupees, while Hotel Developers Lanka PLC incurred 83.1 million rupees as losses during the first 4 months of 2019. Independent Television Network Limited and Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation also incurred losses of 225 million rupees and 140.6 million rupees during the first quarter of 2019. Losses of state-owned enterprises doubled in 2018, with 16 state-owned enterprises reporting net losses amounting to 157 billion rupees, while in 2017 the total loss recorded was 87 billion rupees.
Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Minister Sajith Premadasa, expressed the following views at an event in Nanatan in Mannar.
ජනතා සිහින සැබෑ කරනවා වෙනුවට පහුගිය කාලේ පාලකයෝ කරේ මොකක්?
Instead of thinking of the wishes of the people over the last few years, the rulers made their dreams come true. The people provided a permit to govern them for 4 years. They made this a deed for themselves, through which they went ahead and treated themselves and their families. We provide a new hope through a clean, new governance that we can help people fulfill their aspirations. A governance that establishes the people's voice. I invite you to join us to take Sri Lanka swiftly towards a new industrial era of development.
The 211th village of the 77 Yalipibidenu Gammana program was built in Nanatan. This village, known as Kurinchinagar, is comprised of 42 housing units and is equipped with all modern infrastructure facilities. The handing over of deeds, housing loans for low-income families and a number of other events took place in line with the launch.
2 Chinese men were arrested in a hotel in Kolpiti along with a device used to make fake credit cards. The police stated that 5 blank cards used to make fake credit cards and a laptop was seized along with the suspects. The suspects and the items that were seized during a raid carried out by the Police Narcotic Bureau was based on a tip-off received and was handed over to the Criminal Investigations Department for further investigations. The prize-Benz vehicle given away during the 21st anniversary of Sirasa TV was officially handed over to its winner today.
This luxurious Benz car was won by Tilak Bandara of Batalagama in Mahiyangana. The winner was selected from 1 million viewers who answered the questions based on Teledrama's ad on Sirasa TV. The Benz car was taken to the winner's house in Mahiyangana in a vehicle parade.
විදායක අධ්‍යක්ෂකතුමන් ප්‍රියන්ත විජේසිංහ පන්මහයනි පන්සලට ගිහිල්ලා දේවාලටත් ගිහිල්ලා අපි ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරා මේ කාර් එක ලැබෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා. ඒ දේ සැබවින්ම ඉෂ්ට වුණා.
මට ගොඩාක් සතුටුයි. මම දැක්ක ටීවී එකේ මේ කාර් එක පෙන්නනවා. මේ කතාව බලලා SMS කරලා ඒකල ඇදුරුගම මට ගොඩාක් සතුටුයි. අදා ගන්න බෑ.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ Sirasa TV. Our aim is to fulfill the dreams of all our viewers who watch Sirasa TV. We will continue to strengthen the relationship we have with our viewers even in the future. තරමටම ළඟින් අනාගතයේ ඔවුන් සමග රැඳී සිටින්නට.
News First Newsline on TV1 and its sister program Pathikada aired on Sirasa TV celebrated the dawn of their 5th year this morning. Hosted by journalist Faraj Shaukat Ali, Newsline comes with over 1,040 episodes and over 520 hours of airtime. Chief of Defence Staff Admiral Ravindra Vijay Gunaratne was interviewed on the Newsline program this morning.
So we have to build up our intelligence to the same ground where that we were fighting with the LTT. Mind you, we had an intelligence which we send people to far, far away countries and detect these ships. Even 2009, when the 3 ships of LTT left, which were parked in various countries, 2 took the LTT and their families went to Canada. And there was 1 ship which called Princess Krishanta in a country far away from us, which were parked there. We sent our intelligence team. We went and we want to buy the ship. And then we said we want to go on a trial to buy the ship. We took the ship out of the harbour, went on trial, threw the LTTs into the sea and brought the ship here. There are secrets which will go down with us into our coffin.
Now in international news, protesters in Hong Kong have forced their way into the central chamber of Hong Kong's parliament after an hours-long siege. Protesters stormed the Legislative Council on the anniversary of the city's 1997 return to the Chinese rule amid widespread anger over laws that would allow extraditions to China, plunging the city deeper into chaos.
The protesters once again paralysed parts of the Asian financial hub as they occupied roads after blocking them off with metal barriers. Amid fresh protests, Hong Kong held a flag-raising ceremony to mark the 22nd anniversary of the handover from British to Chinese rule. Speaking at the ceremony, Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam highlighted the existing issue of unstable and trade conflicts facing China and the United States, and that the government has to devote energy to take precautionary measures. Protesters, on the other hand, hosted a black flag near a Hong Kong flag, both at half-mast at the Legislative Council.